In this video, I'm going to show you how to nurture leads and turn them into customers. From understanding what lead nurturing is to best practices, look, I got you covered. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Emmanuel. I am the founder of Square One Group. Really, our mission is very simple: to help solopreneurs really grow and scale their business using systems. If you stick around to the end, I want to show you how I measure campaigns to make sure they're progressing correctly and that they're going to be a success. All right, let's start off by explaining why lead nurturing is important. It's basically a process that you do to keep in touch with the people that are already interested in your services, but they have not bought yet. Now, it's critical that you use this to build relationships simply because these are your future customers and they want to know that you understand their needs and their pain points, and that you really have the solution to help solve that. And I should also add that it's cheaper, a heck of a lot cheaper than always worrying about lead gen. When you maximize your lead nurture process, you end up getting more bang for your buck instead of always having to pay for new leads. Now, to help you understand lead nurturing a little bit more, just to break it down in simple terms, there's really 5 phases. Phase 1 is identifying the leads. This is where you know who your leads are. Specifically, the people that visited your website, that signed up for your newsletter, that engaged in your social media, or even that clicked on your lead magnets. Then the next step, phase 2, is segmentation. This is where you start grouping all of the leads that have the same interest or behavior. Doing this can give you a better strategy and approach to really talking to each one of these leads. Anecdotally, the way that we do it is we break it down by a solopreneur's income level. It's easy to talk to people that are all suffering from the same problems, that are going from 0 to 100K in revenue, versus someone or solopreneurs that are going from 100 to 250, 250 to 500, or $500,000 to $1 million, which leads us to phase 3, engagement. This is where you start building the relationships. The things that you're going to be executing here are like sending out messaging to answer questions, or really just guiding these leads or prospects through the whole process of really solving their problems. And this strengthens the relationships like tenfold, leaps and bounds. On to phase 4, and that is providing value. This is where you show them that you understand their needs, fears, and frustrations, and that you have resources and experience to help solve those problems. And then lastly, phase 5, which is feedback. This is where you're looking and probing to see how people are responding to your messaging efforts. Like, what are they engaging with the most, or where are they dropping off in your conversation process? And these questions that you really ask yourself are really designed to give you solid and quick feedback, so you know how you need to refine your strategy to make your messaging more important and more effective to these leads, so you can get them to engage and eventually raise their hand, become a prospect, then eventually become a customer. Because the bottom line here is that if you have leads inside of your database or inside of your funnel and you're sending them messaging but you're not getting any replies, you need to figure out why, because chances are your messaging is just not resonating with them. But if you can get a reply, that means you're on the pathway to eventually converting this lead into a client. Now I want to show you how to create your lead nurture campaigns. And it starts with number 1, clear goals. Like, what is your end game? Do you want to convert these leads or really encourage your maybe existing customers to buy more from you? You got to be clear here with what you want first. Another thing could be even just to get leads to engage with a piece of content, or maybe get them to book an appointment. On to step 2, which is identifying your audience. Knowing your audience and what really their frustrations are makes it a lot easier to connect with them. If you have an audience with various pain points, essentially what you do is you create an avatar or an ideal kind of customer profile for each one of them, not to get them confused kind of in your messaging process, and make them feel like you're talking to them one-on-one. Like I mentioned earlier, someone that's suffering from 0 to 100K in revenue problems is going to be completely different from the symptoms and pain and frustrations that someone's going to be suffering from 100 to maybe $250,000 in problems. On to step 3, and that's mapping out your buyer's journey. This is really figuring out where your lead's journey is in terms of your funnel. And this is really the pathway that you create to nudge them to the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step, to eventually getting them to really buying your services. On to step 4, which is choosing your channels. Really asking yourself the question, where are your leads usually hanging out in? Is it email? Is it social media? Maybe a YouTube video? Strategies like UTM tracking and really just using Google Analytics can help you identify where your leads are coming from. Then you can connect with them in those platforms where really the analytics are showing you where they're hanging out at. And then they would be, the more they see you, the more they'd be more receptive to, actually raising their hand and eventually, hopefully becoming a prospect, and then eventually a customer or client. And then lastly, step 5, which is now we have to create the content. We have to create the lead nurture content. We have to create pieces that are informative, relevant, and specifically made to really align with the interests of the fears, frustrations, and pain points of your leads. This could be a mixture of articles and infographics and videos, really to make you more interesting, but more importantly, a thought leader, like a person that actually knows and can sympathize or empathize with what problems and frustrations that your leads are facing. Oh, I forgot to add step 6. This is setting up email automation. You can use tools like Zoho, Go High Level, HubSpot. Like there's a ton of them out there. But the idea is that you want to try to automate you sending these messages at the right time and based off of them taking the right actions inside of your funnel. So it'll give you the best opportunity to, get them to engage with you and then eventually convert them. I guess you can add one more step 7, which is to monitor and to tweak, because this is really important. Bottom line is, if you set out a campaign and you think that it's just good to go and you don't get any responses, it's gonna fail. What you're gonna have to do is you're gonna need to make sure you're monitoring your results and then tracking every single engagement and really the conversion rates of those engagements. Then you can just review, adjust, and then try again. There really is no set it and forget it with a lead nurture strategy, especially because trends are always changing. So you have to be flexible in your ability to pivot in terms of how you want to be presenting this information to them. By the way, if you at all need help setting up any type of these automations or really just help with your messaging, hey, be more than happy to help you out. I'm going to leave the link to a quick 10-minute brainstorm session right under this video. Happy to chat with you, strategize with you, and see what we can do to kind of set this stuff up so that be a lot more easier for you. All right, now let's talk a little bit deeper, specifically about MQLs, which stands for Market Qualified Leads. It's a lead that has shown interest in your services based on the marketing that you've done. These kinds of leads have the highest chance of converting into a customer more than anyone else in your database. So this is really going to be how you can turn these chance encounters into some more certainty and really a customer. All right, step 1 is super important, and this is gonna go real high level now. You need to start scoring your leads. Now, if you've never heard of scoring leads before, it's a system where you assign points to leads based on their interactions with your brand. This helps you identify who's the most engaged outside of people inside of your database that you're sending messaging to. And then from there, you can send personalized messages to these people. Now, in terms of scoring, it's simply things like, hey, if someone opens an email, maybe that's considered 1 point. If someone clicks on a link in an email, maybe that's considered 2 points. If someone maybe replies to an email, maybe that's considered 3 points. And over time, all of these points start stacking up and you get a pretty clear indication of who exactly is a MQL. Which moves us to step 2, these personalized follow-ups. These are messages that are just straight up one-to-one, not automated, going straight to them saying, hey, I noticed that you took interest in blank, in my email, in my article, and the things that I do. Like, you really need to create a message that is specifically catered to that lead's interests based off of the interactions that they've done with all of the marketing messaging through your lead nurture process. And on to step 3 of really converting MQLs, you gotta make them feel special. So maybe offer an MQL exclusive access to maybe some special webinar or maybe some exclusive demo or a pilot program. You can even go as far as maybe scheduling a one-on-one like consultation with this MQL to maybe try to cultivate and build more rapport to eventually get this person to convert. By the way, if you're connecting some dots based off of what I'm saying and this is making some sense to you, really appreciate if you click that like button, subscribe button, bell icon, all that good stuff. Thank you so much in advance. All right, I mentioned earlier in this video that I wanted to give you some ways that I measure success in my campaigns to really make them better. Well, here they are. There's really 4 of them. Number 1, it's to set clear KPIs or key performance indicators. It's essentially setting a goal with what success looks like in terms of numbers. It can be CTR or click-through rate, or maybe the open rates of your email campaigns. Number 2 is to track the data and use analytic tools. Look, all of these really great, marketing platforms, the CRM platforms, or even the email platforms have great marketing tools like MailChimp, Sprout Social, HubSpot. They all have really cool dashboards that you can use to analyze the data. All right, number 3, it's to track lead progression. Like, keep an eye out on how your leads are moving through your sales funnel. Understanding your funnel and the parts where leads get stuck or really where they're moving efficiently are the things to really be looking out for, and then you can refine your approach based off of any roadblocks. And then 4, it's to monitor the lead quality. Monitor the quality of leads being nurtured and how well they fit your ideal customer, your avatar's profile. Because the bottom line is, you do not want to have a whole bunch of leads that you're nurturing that actually are not really your avatar. That leads to a whole other problem, like a whole other messaging problem, which is your top of funnel or your lead gen campaign actually isn't performing the way that you really wish you'd hoped it is. It also gives you clear visibility to your MQLs. Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to give you your best shot to really making sales predictably.